Hello, everyone. How is everyone on today? I've been covering the stories on the biggest welfare scandal in America, and that was in Mississippi. If you all recall that I covered that story extensively, each time there were updates, I came out and pretty much spoke on the updates. Now, this is another take on this story that the Pulitzer Prize winner was Anna Wolfe, and she actually reported on this scandal, and she won a Pulitzer Prize for, this story. And so now the former governor, Phillip Bryant, is suing her for defamation of character. Now, if you've been following the stories that I covered about this case, it was one of the biggest scandals in America. You know that Mississippi is one of the poor states, and a lot of the money that was misused was used to build a sports complex at the University of Mississippi, where Brett Favre's daughter attended there and played volleyball. And there was a lot of he said, she said, but there was proof that came out that a lot of them were involved in the misuse of the money, as well as where the money was going to go and could it be traced. And so even though they've never charged Brett Favre or the former governor, and it reminds me of DT right here, that they don't want to charge people. And the Supreme Court knocked it back down to the local court on Donald Trump. But this story is not about Donald Trump, but you can see how politicians that are in high places really don't get charged like they should. Now, John Davis, who was over the Department of Human Services, in Mississippi, he was charged, he was indicted, convicted, charged and convicted, and his jail time, his sentencing, as far as reporting to prison, was delayed. And as far as I know, he hadn't reported yet, but he was charged. And then there was Nancy New, who owned, that ran the nonprofit. From what she testified is that the money, when it came out, is that the former governor was directing who got what when it came to that money. And that was money that was taken out of children's mouths that needed it for child care. It was under the TANF, Temporary Assistance Needy, Fund program under the Welfare Department. And that is money that welfare gets, but other states carry them and fund that money. And so for this money to be misused like this, I spoke out very passionately about this. Now, this journalist, she reported the story, and now this former governor wants to sue her for defamation of character because he wasn't charged. So I want to share this story with you, and I want to know what you all think. So hit the like button, share the video when I'm done. But I want to know what you all think about this because, again, the information was out there and she reported on it. So why would he be able to sue her? I mean, he can sue her, but will he win? That's the question. That's the key. Will he win his case? Even though he wasn't charged, but the information was out there. There was evidence, there was proof, there was text messages. There was also an auditor that was involved in this. So the question goes back to, will he win this case in the defamation suit that he has filed against this journalist, Anna Wolfe? So it says, when Anna Wolfe won the Pulitzer Prize for her dog reporting on Mississippi's welfare fraud scandal, she had no inkling she was soon going to have to contend with the possibility of going to jail. Now, I want to stop right there because what she's basically saying is she may have to serve jail time for, for the fact of what's being put in front of her. She may have to serve jail time to stand up basically for what she believes in as a journalist. Okay, so it says, but just over a year after she secured journalism top award for exposing how $77 million in federal welfare funds went to athletes, cronies, and pet projects, she and her editor, Adam Ganusho, are contemplating what to pack for an extended stay behind bars. sued for defamation by the state's former governor, a top subject of their reporting. They have been hit with a court order requiring them to turn over internal files, including the names of confidential sources. They say the order is a threat to journalism that they will resist. Now, if one of us goes to jail, we will be the first person to go to jail in the Mississippi welfare scandal, Wolfe told NBC News, referring to the 8 indictments that stem from the imbroglio, none of which has yet resulted in a sentence. How can I make promises to sources that I'm going to keep them confidential if this is possible? The case has drawn attention beyond Mississippi as an example of how public figures can make life difficult for news organizations long before they have ever presented evidence of the actual malice needed to prove defamation cases. Now, Mississippi Today, the independent nonprofit organization that employs Wolfe and Ganuso, is asking the state Supreme Court to overturn the order. Bryant appointed 4 of the 9 justices. Breaching the confidentiality of sources violates one of the most sacred trusts and breaks one of the most vital tools in the investigative journalism, Ganuso wrote in a recent New York Times op-ed. No serious news organization would agree to this command. Andy Lack, former chairman of NBC News, is executive chair of Mississippi Today's board of directors. Now, the plaintiff in the defamation case is Phillip Bryant, who was governor when the scandal erupted, first with a report by the state's auditor, then with a blizzard of coverage by Mississippi Today. Bryant, who has not been charged with a crime and says he did nothing illegal, claims the online news organization wrongly accused him of criminal conduct. Now, I want to stop right here because, in my opinion, I do believe that from the evidence that came out, because like I said, I covered these stories, and if you got a chance to watch them, thank you so much. If you didn't, you might want to go back and watch these stories. But I, in my opinion, believe that he is guilty of something, and I'm going to say alleged, but this is public knowledge. This is public information, although he was not charged. But again, there is evidence, if you go to these videos, that he was the one that was directing the money with the Nancy New nonprofit. She had to give up her nonprofit. Her son was charged. They had to pay restitution. And in order for her to stay out of jail, she had to cooperate with the prosecution. But there is evidence out here that he was directing that money. And she got caught up in this scandal with these public figures. One of them was an athlete. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to stand with this journalist as far as her job, because I believe that, when it came down to this particular case, because I did follow it and I did report on it, very passionately about it, but I reported on it. And I believe that in this case, I will stand and hope that this case will be thrown out and that the former governor will not be able to exceed or excel or win in a defamation character in this defamation character suit, because number one, even though he wasn't charged, there was still evidence, and she was just doing her job. And if the information is out there, then we have a right to talk about it. And we can, and as long as we use allegedly in certain cases, but like I said, in my opinion, I believe that he should have been charged. And I was very, very passionate about that in the other videos, that he should be charged as well. I don't think that only 1 or 2 people or 3 should go down. And there was other athletes involved, because there was a former wrestler. So, a lot of them, used this money inappropriately. As I stated, it was with the Tanner Fund, and we all should be outraged. We should all be, outraged at this. We definitely should be, because it's taxpayers' money that was misused. And these are people with money, public figures that had their own money, but they chose to take it from the Tanner Fund, from welfare, the poorest state in America, to take this money from one of the poorest states out of children and family mouths that really needed it. And a lot of those parents were working that needed child care, and they could not get it because the money was being misused and funneled to other programs that had no business, the money had no business going to. And so getting back to the story, he declined to be interviewed, but said his lawyer, Billy Quinn, said the lawsuit is not about punishing good reporting. And this is what former Phil Bryant has stated. He says, I didn't sue them because they exposed 77 million worth of misspending, $77 million, excuse me, of worth of misspending. He applauds them for doing that. He said, the suit is about defamation. The scandal came to light after Wolfe began asking questions about how a poor state rejected more than 90% of the people who applied for welfare. Get that, 90% of the applications, the cases were rejected. Now, I want to say something else. There are people that feel privileged and they believe that, you know, he's going to go on to try to tell you all that he was the one reported this and reported that. But, you know, you got to read between the lines. And again, if you were following this story, and even if you didn't get to follow it, read the stories. The stories are out there. Go back and read them and you will see why, in my opinion, I believe that he should have been charged as well. And look who he's standing by. That's another thing. So I'm not here to, you know, one way or the other on who you're going to vote for or not. I'm not here for that. But right is right and wrong is wrong. And so he wants to hold them accountable for defamation of character. And it seems to be that he wants to hold them accountable because he wasn't charged. But I don't think you have to be charged for someone to do a story about what's been put out there as far as the information and the evidence, because there were text messages as well that Brett Favre sent back to Phil Bryant, really basically questioning, can this money be traced? Will they know it's me that's asking for it? So we already know there was some deception there going on in this whole situation. But the scandal came to light after Wolfe began asking questions. Now she wanted to know where the federal money was going. We all wanted to know that, absolutely. And so her queries led to a referral to the state auditor, who published a scathing report in 2020 questioning more than $90 million in spending. The details were stunning enough to make national news, though not surprising to many Mississippians. In America's poorest state, where only a few thousand families a year qualify for welfare, white state officials and their associates diverted huge sums of federal welfare money intended for poor and mostly black women and children, according to public records. The money went instead to well-connected people and their favorite causes. Public records show most which had little to do with helping poor people. Now, if you recall, Brett Favre was supposed to make speeches to help people open up businesses, that they can live a better life, maybe become financially stable, kind of give them a little more cushion so they wouldn't have to struggle more. He failed to go and do those conferences or those seminars, and he has paid money back, but they came back to charge him with interest. And so he lost his case, and he also lost his defamation suit against Shannon Sharp, if you remember that as well. Now, they included a volleyball facility that cost more than $5 million at the University of Southern Mississippi, a project championed by former NFL football star Brett Favre. And I also had mentioned that he needs to have his Hall of Fame, that needs to be pulled, because he's not an example to anyone stealing money and embezzling money and use it for a cause that had nothing to do with with helping families in the welfare system in Mississippi. Now, his daughter, remember, happened to be on the volleyball team there, as I stated. So I remember this case very, very well. Now, Favre, who has not been charged, also received $1.1 million for purported promotional efforts. And a drug company in which he owned stock, remember that too, Prevacus, received $2.1 million, according to public records. Now, Favre lobbied the governor to help secure the money, according to text messages obtained by Mississippi Today. See, this is what I'm saying. Those text messages showed him lobbying the governor. And the governor was complicit in it. Alleged, I'm going to say alleged, but he really was. And so it's third and long, and we need you to make it happen. Favre texts Bryant on December 26, 2018. Bryant replied, I will open a hole. Now, the hole was Nancy News nonprofit, from what I gathered from the stories that were placed out there in the investigation and the information Nancy knew. And so that money was directed to go filter through her nonprofit so that it would kind of be hidden and look like she was funneling out, which, and again, in her testimony that came out is that she was told how to funnel the money. She wasn't the one in charge, but she was told how to funnel it. And according to that, the information that's out there in testimony, it was the former Governor Phil Bryant that was directing where the money went to and who got it. Allegedly. Okay, I'm going to say that again. But anyway, the question of Bryant's role in the spending was a key topic of reporting in the series of articles that won the Pulitzer, dubbed the back channel. The back channel is now at issue in the defamation lawsuit. The investigation, published in a multi-part series in 2022, revealed for the first time how former Governor Phil Bryant used his office to steer the spending of millions of federal welfare dollars, money intended to help the state's poorest residents, to benefit his family and friends, including NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre. Mississippi Today reported when the prize was announced. Bryant takes issue with that and similar pronouncements, saying he played no role in directing the money. But the proof is in the pudding. Even though he has not been charged, the information is out there. So whether you've been charged or not, former Phil Bryant, the information is out there. It's public information. And you did play a role. You was the governor and you was involved in this and you had connections. So don't sit here and say that you didn't play a role in this. Now, the man who did, Quinn said, is John Davis. Yes, John Davis was involved in it. Brett Favre was involved in it. There was the wrestler and his son involved in it. There was Phil Bryant that was involved in it. And there was the security guard, but I think last name Black, was involved in it. There was quite a few people. Nancy News nonprofit, her son. There was quite a few people. And there was another gentleman involved in it. Now, I can't give you all the names at this moment, but there were a lot of people involved in this scandal that benefited from this money. But it still goes back to the top. It's not, it doesn't work down to up. It's up, down. And the top is the one that was directing the money. And it came from the top and filtered down, because those people wasn't in positions to have any control. So it filtered down. And Phil Bryant, the former governor, was over John Davis. Yes, John Davis was charged, and they used him, and he, I believe, got the most time. And the thing is that there are some people that needed to be charged, and I still stand on that. I stand on that. In my opinion, I do believe from the investigation and the text messages, the audit that came out, I believe that these two other people needs to be charged. And you all, if you looked at the videos, then you will know that I was very passionate about these people being charged. They all need to fall down. One can't fall down without the other, and that's how it should have been. They should not be showing bias of favoritism because somebody was in office. And that's, when it comes down to these people in office, wrong is wrong, and they need to be held accountable. Okay? Now, John Davis, the state's welfare director, who pleaded guilty to federal fraud and theft charges in September 2022, but has yet to be sentenced. Again, they were going to sentence him, but it's been delayed. It actually has been delayed. So he's not been sentenced yet. So he's obviously out free on bond, and everything like that. But this is still something that he was charged with. Now, the fact is, I did nothing wrong, is what Brian said in a statement in May of 2023, which was last year. And I remember him saying that. Now, I beg the difference. But anyway, I wasn't aware of the wrongdoings of others. Oh, okay, really? But you were getting text messages from Brett Favre, and you were directing where that money went, but you said you wasn't aware of the wrongdoing of others. Now, when I received evidence that suggested people appear to be misappropriating funds, I immediately reported that to the agency whose job it is to investigate these matters. Brian did not sue after the articles were published in April 2022. And in fact, the statute of limitations of defamation claims in Mississippi lapses after 1 year. But in February 2023, the CEO of Mississippi Today, Mary Margaret White, mischaracterized the reporting at a journalism conference in Miami. We're the newsroom that broke the story about $77 million in welfare funds intended for the poorest people in the poorest state in the nation being embezzled by a former governor and his bureaucratic cronies and used on pet projects like a state-of-the-art volleyball stadium at Brett Favre's alma mater, she said in videotape remarks. Embezzlement is a crime, and Bryant has never been charged, let alone convicted. There has been no indication he is a target of an ongoing federal investigation into the welfare fraud scandal. Now, in May 2023, a few days after the Pulitzer announcement, Quinn sent Mississippi Today a notice of his intention to sue, citing the embezzlement remark. A week later, White issued a public apology saying, I misspoke at a recent media conference regarding the accusations against former Governor Phillip Bryant in the $77 million welfare scandal. He has not been charged with any crime. My remark was inappropriate and I sincerely apologize. But Quinn said her apology should have gone farther, saying Mississippi Today has no evidence that Bryant embezzled funds. Now, I don't believe that he embezzled the funds. That's not what happened. And so she was actually, to me, she erred on the human side because it wasn't him embezzling the funds. He was directing the funds to where they should go. And he should be charged with that particular crime, in my opinion, alleged, because that is what the evidence was that came out when you go back and read those stories. So I don't believe he embezzled the money. And the focus really wasn't on him himself as far as the embezzlement. The focus was on who was directing the money and where it went to and how it got to Brett, okay, and his company, drug company, and the building of the volleyball facility at the University of Southern Mississippi. So I would say that that she misspoke on to say that he embezzled. So that's what he obviously, is suing for, is because that word was stated. So that would make a difference. But again, I do hope that he doesn't win his case. I do hope that, because at the end of the day, this all comes with the territory of you being Phil Bryant, former Governor Phil Bryant, being a leader that whether good or bad, that corruption did happen, funds were misused, funds were stolen, and I'm not saying he stole them, so I'm going to be very clear on that. But the funds were stolen and misappropriated and misused. And that's the problem. And we all should be grieved at that, and we all should be outraged at this type of situation. But then someone to come back that was in office, in a high-ranking position, to come back and say, well, I'm going to sue because, they use the word embezzlement, privileged people, that just want to get away with things because they let, their positions go to their head. And that's what a lot of times happen. And God knows that a lot of people can't handle compliments and kudos because pride gets in the way and people become conceited and then start thinking that they can do whatever they want to do. Just like with the Tiffany Henyard mess. She thinks she can do whatever she wants to do when it comes down to taxpayers' money and all the shenanigans and foolishness and lack of moral integrity that she has shown. And believe me, they're not going to allow that to be pushed under the rug and nothing happen with her either. I haven't been reporting on the story, but I've been updating it on my community posts, when I get updates, and so that you can stay abreast of it. But her day is going to come too, because you can't continue to misuse taxpayers' money and think you're going to get away with it. And we have to be the ones to speak out, because I value my taxpaying dollars. I value them, and we all should value where our money is going. It's a lot of things going on in society that people will report on, foolish stuff. And I don't care about the foolish things. I care about the real situations that's happening. Just like our tax money, where is it going? How are people being treated? How are these laws being passed? Things like that. Are they for the people or against the people? We need to start looking at those type of things and being more conscious of that And it starts in your own community. It starts in your local community, holding government officials and mayors and city council people, holding people accountable, county supervisors, the chief of police when things are going wrong in the jail system. These are things we need to really be focusing on and holding people accountable, because when we start small, we can build. And you know what I'm saying? We can build on those things, because we have to really focus on how we're going to get back to making America the way it's supposed to be, not some foolish stuff that happened. You know what I'm saying? The foolish things that's been happening, but how can we really make America what it's supposed to be? And in the right way. And people are going to be held accountable. So the upshot is you embezzled $70 million dollars, and the criminal authorities aren't doing anything about it, he said. So here we are to give one of their favorite words, accountability, to the situation. Well, the rabbit's got the gun now. We'll see who's going to be accountable. So Quinn has since incorporated more recent articles and is arguing that references to the back channel series amount to a republication that makes the entire body of work fair game. This series of defamatory comments have taken a very serious toll on him, Quinn said. He's entitled to protect himself. He's entitled to enforce his rights just like anyone else. And you actually are absolutely correct, his attorney, that he's absolutely entitled to enforce his rights. But if this defamatory comments have taken a serious toll on him, then he should have did his job with moral integrity. And this is what I'm going to say here. He should have did his job with moral integrity, and he should not been involved with Brett Favre in text messages talking about opening a hole, because that hole was Nancy News' nonprofit. Okay, so to win a defamation lawsuit, a public figure has to show that someone published false information with actual malice or a reckless disregard for the truth. Quinn said that's why he needs the newspaper's internal emails and the names of confidential sources, something journalists are loath to ever provide. The order asked that the materials first be handed to the judge, who will decide whether any of the evidence is relevant to a claim of defamation. It's not a fishing expedition, Quinn said. A judge is going through the files that you claim to rely on to support your defamatory statements to determine whether they support what you said. But journalists are extremely reluctant to give up the names of confidential sources to anyone, even judges. And that is true. And some therapists can be held in contempt if they don't release information when they are asked when it comes to certain therapy records. And so some of them, can actually probably lose their license if they don't comply. And so here, this is why Miss Anna is saying, I have to decide her and Mr. Ganush what to pack for jail time if they refuse to comply to the judge's order, if the judge requires them to give up that information, to turn over that information. So that's why she was saying that they have to decide to prepare for this jail time, because it may be a long stay, because she's standing on 2 feet on the ground, is what I'm going to say. She's standing firm on what her beliefs are as a journalist. Okay, now it would have a chilling effect for the sources of coming forward, Ganuccio said. It would have the effect of making the journalists in Mississippi second guess how they collect what they collect and whether they should in the first place. Meanwhile, fighting what she views as an unwarranted lawsuit is taking a toll on one of the state's most accomplished reporters. It makes it harder to do my job, Wolfe said. I'm working on a story right now that I think is of great significance and that I now feel like I'm going to get sued over as well. It feels like now anything that I try to report is going to be met with the same level of gaslighting and intimidation and scrutiny. So it definitely impacts my day to day. And Wolfe said it's not clear more money is getting to Mississippi's poor. According to state figures, as of June 1,423 families and 2,522 individuals are receiving federal welfare grants administered by Mississippi, a state where 548,000 people live in poverty. And you know that last year, I believe it was last year, is that, remember when they voted in all white panel politicians, and the blacks down there didn't get to vote on that. And the NAACP got involved. And there's a video I did on that. And I reached out to the NAACP down there, and I was referred to another agency when I reached out down there. And they said they were actually working on it, is what I was told. So I did reach out to them. If you all don't remember, I didn't give an update. I believe I did in one of the videos that I reached out to them and found and wanted to know how were they trying to resolve that issue as well, because the taxpayers and the vote of people, the citizens have a right. The citizens have a right to vote. And when you start taking away the right to vote, when that is a constitutional right and you take that away, then that becomes problematic. And so they've been working on that for a long time, trying to take the rights of black voters' rights away to vote. That's been happening a lot. And then when you really look at what this couple in this other video that I previously did about them, targeting black children out of a youth homeless shelter to adopt them and they were in a vulnerable state to begin with, and then putting them into forced slavery, forced labor, human trafficking. And so we have a lot of things that we are facing right here in society that we need to work to resolve. We cannot grow weary in doing good. We cannot give up the fight. We got to stay in it, just like Daniel prayed and didn't give up. We got to continue to pray, but we also got to do some things. We got to get to work and do some things. And I am encouraging you to vote, pray and vote, because it's so important. Do not give up your right to vote by not voting. If you are eligible to vote, please make sure that you're at those polls, or you submit your vote by mail, ballot by mail. However you do it, make sure you cast your vote. And when you see things that are on that ballot that don't sit right with you, make sure that you vote appropriately. And the other thing is do your research before you vote. So you should already be reading about these politicians that are running. You should already be reading about a lot of these, even judges, whatever that's going to be on the ballot. Make sure that you have done your research, so that you vote appropriately and to the best that you can. Do your best. Don't be reckless about it. Don't be lazy about it, but do your best. And remember, we need to continue to do the work and get busy, because faith without works is dead. You're working, but no faith. You have faith, but no works. It has to come together. Faith without works is dead. So there's got to be work, but there's got to be faith. Okay, so we need to get busy. If you haven't gotten busy, whoever you may be, to get busy and do the right thing. And then, with that being said, you all don't forget to hit that. And I'm reporting this. This is fair use for educational purposes, and things like that. This is not for entertainment. I just want to let y'all know that this is for educational purposes. It's to make us more aware of things that's going on. And if you are a journalist, if you are a legitimate journalist, I'm not talking about someone that's pretended to be a journalist. I'm talking about, because I'm not a journalist, but I do come out and talk about stories. But if you are a legitimate journalist, please, if you're able to comment on the video, let me know what you think about this. We know that there are some legitimate journalists out there. So if you are able to comment on this, please let me know. And if you know of some legitimate journalists, please forward this video to them and let them know. Maybe they don't know because they're busy covering the RICO case with Young Thug, them or whatnot, or some other cases with Ernesto. But if you know of legitimate journalists on YouTube, please actually share this video with them. I would truly appreciate it. God bless you all, and I will be talking with you soon.